Hello everyone. Grab a drink, grab some food, it's a long one. Luke Smith, one of the game directors of Destiny, has put out a 3-part series on essentially the state of Destiny, although from the response from the Bungie forums, you might have thought that I wrote it. Part 1 talked about the past 6 months with Season of the Drifter and Season of Opulence. Part 2 talks about Armor 2.0, the transition to that armor and power levels. And Part 3 talks about combat and PvP. In this video, I'll do a Part 1 summary, followed by thoughts, Part 2 summary, thoughts, etc. So if you just want to skip around, check the description for timestamps, but I'll also post timestamps during the video. The footage you'll be watching isn't really anything important if you just want to listen. Also, in retrospect, probably should have made these videos individually, not as one big video, but you live and you learn, and you hang on the edge of tomorrow. Let's recap some of the major points of the director's cut posts, starting with Part 1. To start, while Bungie did end up delivering on what they wanted to deliver, and said they would deliver, the actual production of that stuff was taxing. The various pieces of content that had to be built from the ground up, Forges, Gambit Prime, Reckoning, the Menagerie, and all of the unique to those activity rewards systems within were a bit much for them, and they want to start working on a standardized set of progression mechanics, taking on this challenge in Year 3. Powerful gear sources are becoming too plentiful and feel more like chores than stuff you'd actually want to go do. Even in Season of Opulence, we're still going back to the Dreaming City for some powerful rewards, and Bungie wishes they could do more seasonal curation of the game. Next, we'll move to Season of the Drifter. A lot of the points made here mirror that of what I said in my closing thoughts on Season of the Drifter video. There was too much of a focus on Gambit, Reckoning was not rewarding enough, and Reckoning was not super fun because of design mechanics that had to be broken to compensate for overpowered exotics and strength of supers. I didn't cover that third part as much in the Drifter video, but in a more recent video with Well of Radiance. Luke goes on to talk about the ramifications of having such powerful items in the game. They have to design around those items, and in doing so, they broke a lot of the rules that they set for themselves for encounter design. He mentions Whisper, exotics that generate super energy, and all that stuff that got nerfed a while back. And it seems like there are potential changes on the horizon, like nerfs to mechanics that circumvent ammo economy, damage stacking rules, and potentially more to be spoken about in the next part. Part 1 of the Season of Opulence section started with the Pursuits tab UI tweak. Essentially, the team that designed it, quote, wanted to make something sweet, exceed your expectations, and meet their own expectations, but none of those things happened, and were particularly saddened by the response to the change. Maybe not necessarily because of feedback, but how some feedback was delivered. That being said, another redesign is coming in the fall, which does look a bit better. Part 2 talks about Eververse, and essentially how Bungie wants power to be obtained from playing the game, and vanity from the store. This is where I have a fundamental disagreement with Bungie, although I get the thought process behind it. Luke speaks about how the sales from the ornaments for Whisper of the Worm paid for, dev cost-wise, the 0-hour mission and the rewards to be made. This is a cool insight into how micros actually work in terms of a direct response to their existence. Without Whisper of the Worm ornaments, 0-hour and Outbreak Prime and its ornaments wouldn't have just been made available to everyone. It might have just not existed at all. So a lot of stuff in this section, and by extension most of the rest of the video, might seem familiar to you if you've been watching my videos lately. Specifically the closing of Season of the Drifter Thoughts video, the PvP and Well of Radiance video, and the Eververse video. As a result, I don't have too much to say, because I've already said those things, and I agree with a lot of the things that were in Part 1. I've linked some of my videos in the description from the past that touch on a lot of the stuff that Luke touches on in the director's cuts, but for the most part, I agree with almost everything here. The one thing I don't agree with is separating vanity items from gameplay. It does not sit well, despite instances like Prestige Leviathan gear being not so sought after and the Worldline Zero Sparrow kind of getting mocked. Luke does clarify later that there will still be cosmetic drops like ships and whatever during gameplay, and that they're not completely removed. I enjoy having cosmetic options as drops from the game as part of greater challenges, perhaps linked to triumphs as opposed to base level content. For example, it would have been cool to have a ship from the Shattered Throne that got upgraded as you got the triumphs for completing Shattered Throne, then doing it solo flawless. You get the base item just for doing it, but if you want to go beyond that, you have optional challenges to go do so. Prestige Leviathan felt like a letdown because of its era, because Prestige mode to a lot of hardcore raiders never felt like an optional thing, and because the gear just wasn't that flashy compared to what we've had in the past. We went from Age of Triumph raid armor in Destiny 1, some of the best looking armor sets in the history of the game, to the same armor with a purple glow on it. Or in the case of Eater of Worlds, the same armor set with a barely noticeable lighting effect. Getting the ship from 100 forged weapons from Black Armory is an example, maybe not a great one, but an example of going above and beyond to go get a cosmetic item. I don't think people would have as much of a problem with so many cosmetics in the Eververse store if there were simply a few more things scattered in the game for people to try to hunt that looked as cool as some of the Eververse items do. Part 2 of the Director's Cut discusses power, but starts with the Armor 2.0 transition. If you watch the Armor 2.0 recap that I did, Luke's first part just kind of goes over all the most important parts of how that'll work, so you can just watch my video to get up to speed. To give you a little insight into stats, like strength, intellect, discipline, right now in the game, your stats at base are essentially tier 3 stats without mods. So everyone has the equivalent of what will be tier 3 in stats in Shadowkeep right now. Bungie anticipates the following for players transitioning to Armor 2.0. The better your armor sets are right now, the slower you'll likely adopt Armor 2.0, and the worse your armor, the faster you will. Hardcore players will likely have multiple sets of perfectly rolled armor, which means their incentive to swap over to Armor 2.0 armor isn't as high because Armor 2.0 armor won't have enhanced mods unlocked yet or the perfect whatever they're looking for. Players without those God Roll armor sets have a smaller incentive to stick with them, thus moving faster to 2.0. But Bungie didn't want all non-2.0 armor to be immediately garbage and wants players to transition to 2.0 when they feel like they are going to get a benefit from it, which is a good move. Next, Luke talks about power, power level, and power sources. First, Shadowkeep will cut down on the amount of sources that drop powerful items down to around Forsaken levels. During the Forsaken era, when you over-leveled an activity, the rewards were worth less and vice versa. In Shadowkeep, the game will give a consistent expected powerful reward regardless of your power relative to it. Prime engrams will start dropping at 900 power, but you'll gain charges for prime engrams as you level up. You can earn more prime engrams, but their values were rebalanced to compensate, so it sounds like we'll get more engrams, but at smaller upgrade amounts. World drops, specifically sounding like legendary world drops, will have a chance to drop at your current power level, which will make leveling a little bit easier. The example given was, if you're at 912 power with 906 gloves, you might get a legendary engram that opens into 912 gloves, thus raising your overall power level. When Shadowkeep launches, all weapons and armor will be boosted to 750 power. Everything. This is to enable new and old players to play with each other without having to grind up to 750. This means that you do not need to level old items unless you want to, so don't waste your materials on any of that stuff, again, unless you want to. The relationship between player and power has always been rocky in Destiny, to say the least, as Luke explains in the post. It's been all over the place, from the days of Forever 29 in Destiny 1 to now, where powerful rewards fall from the sky. Destiny 2 launched with a shortened power climb, an oversimplified game with items that were too easy to get, and focused on vanity over the power level grind, hoping that players would go for looks over items. We didn't. Power has always been the number one thing to prioritize in the game, and it's been easier and easier to hit max power. They've added additional objectives like triumphs, but power always reigns supreme. They're trying something new in the seasonal artifact. You'll level this artifact over the course of a season. It'll supply you with seasonal artifact mods, which are mods unique to that season, which could be new mods or cheaper mods or whatever in between. Next, as you level the artifact, it will give you a bonus to your power level, but this bonus is not considered when getting drops from the game. This enables players to gain power levels over time by just playing the game in case they don't raid or do Iron Banner or whatever else gives top rewards. Shadowkeep will be introducing pinnacle powerful reward sources, and the only way to go above 950 power in Season 8 will be by completing these pinnacle sources. I assume that does not include the bonus that is given with the artifact. What this boils down to is, if you do pinnacle level stuff, you will level up faster than others, but if you don't or can't do them, you'll level up slower just by completing activities in the game by leveling your artifact, which is sort of similar to what is happening right now in the game. People are making a guess at Shadowkeep's max power level, saying it'll be 1000, and that is my guess as well. Destiny 1 had a sense of prestige when you were higher power levels because you could only get the highest power levels by completing the hardest stuff in the game. This concept seeks to bring that feeling back to the game a little bit. All that being said, Luke acknowledges that power level in Destiny isn't perfect and it is open to being reworked down the road. Thoughts on Part 2? Again, we're pretty much in agreement here. With regards to the Armor 2.0 transition, I think this is being handled pretty well. If you're decked out in gear with enhanced perks, there's not as much of a rush to switch to 2.0. If you're not decked out or you're gearing up alts, you can go to 2.0 pretty quickly with no problem. Being able to switch when you want and not being forced to is also a good decision. There are some concerns floating around with Armor 2.0 itself compared to Armor we have now. With Armor 2.0, since certain weapon-specific perks like Scavenger and Reloader are locked behind certain elements, certain combos like Hand Cannon Shotgun or Hand Cannon Sniper aren't able to roll perfect perks like you can right now. However, for example, you can get a more generic reload perk which will cost more energy but isn't elemental, so you can do it on whatever you want. The elemental affinity system appears to be a system designed with trade-offs and choices actually in mind as part of the gearing process, as opposed to just stockpiling as much power as we can. It's also probably designed in part to nerf overall player power, since we've just been getting more and more insane by the day. Nerfing overall player power is naturally going to make some people upset. I personally don't mind it, but understand that for some people, it's tough to feel like you're going to be weaker overall. The trade-off for continuing to use all non-2.0 armor will be a lack of stats. We also don't know if ammo finders or double scavenger perks will be working in the same way they do right now, or if they'll be balanced differently, so it's tough to comment on that before we get more details. I like the 750 boost of all items. I don't think many people have a problem with this at all, maybe besides the, well, then why did I bother to grind to 750 in Opulence if we're just going to get automatically leveled crowd. You did it because you wanted to. It's a new year, it's a good entry point for new players, and putting everyone on the same playing field is a good idea at the start. My only, I guess not concern, but question would be no stat crunch. Seems like a good time for it since we're potentially going up to 1000 power. Not a huge deal though. The seasonal artifact sounds like Paragon levels in Diablo 3, where you get to keep leveling after you're done leveling. The artifact in Destiny will level up every time you get enough experience and doesn't require you to be at the power cap though. That's the main difference. The unlocking of perks does seem very battle pass-like in nature though. You buy the season, therefore buying the artifact, and perhaps the feeling of being done in a season is to fully level the artifact. Without knowing how the artifact works though, or what's on it, it's tough to pass any judgment. But let's just say that there are still some concerns on my end when it comes to any Battle Pass related stuff coming to Destiny, which we'll talk about if and when the time comes. Finally, with regards to culling the amount of powerful gear sources, I'm pretty okay with this. Right now, the list of powerful sources feels like homework. There's too many of them, and not even I bothered to do all of them outside of the most special of circumstances. It is unreasonable and can also make the power grind very, very brief. I think making it so you get the same amount of power as an upgrade from completing anything is a nice trade-off compared to the system we have now, although it does make completing harder content for upgrades not as incentivized, at least until you run out of things to do. I personally like that you'll need to actually do pinnacle level activities to hit max power level, returning some prestige to that goal, although I'm sure it won't end up being as big of a deal as I or others might think it'll be. Obviously, if you're a more casual player, this is something you might not like, understandably so. As Luke said, Bungie is still trying to figure out if getting max power should be a prestigious thing or not. For the past while, it absolutely hasn't been. Maybe now it will be. But a problem we've had in Destiny historically is lack of a reason to actually get max power. We covet it so badly, and yet it has been pretty meaningless outside of a couple of specific things gameplay-wise. Part 3 discusses combat and PvP. It seems like damage values and numbers are getting a bit of a stat squish moving into Shadowkeep as Bungie sets up a better damage display system. Essentially, from what it sounds like anyway, damage numbers will be smaller than they are now so that we don't spiral out of control with giant numbers. This isn't a nerf as far as I know, this is just a numbers squish. Bungie is also extending the immunity wall, aka the level at which enemies are immune to your damage. Right now, if you are 50 or more levels below an enemy, you can't deal any damage to them. That number is being increased to 100 or more levels. Damage buff stacking is being retooled. From now on, you will only gain the benefit of the strongest damage buff at a time. So if you have a Well of Radiance and a top tree Weapons of Light, you'll only gain the benefit from Weapons of Light, but you would still get the healing part of Well of Radiance. Weapon-specific buffs like Rampage or Kill Clip will stack on top of things like Well or Weapons of Light though. Enemies will also only be able to be affected by one debuff at a time, and the weapon debuff skills and weapons, Hammer Strike, Shatter Strike, Tractor Cannon, and Shadow Shot, had their effects and durations adjusted, but we don't know by how much or what the changes are. Shadow Shot will now work on powerful weapons as well. I assume that means power weapons. Roaming supers are getting their damage resistance nerfed to make players in supers a little more vulnerable. Orbs of Light are also getting nerfed and won't restore as much energy on your super, along with reducing the super energy gained from kills and assists. I assume this is within the realm of PvP discussion, but it's not explicitly stated if this is also affecting PvE. Bungie wants supers to be a more strategic choice as opposed to just popping it and going on a murder spree. If you use it poorly or if someone gets a good shot on you, you're going to be punished. At Destiny 2 launch, supers were kind of undertuned. Right now they're overtuned, so Bungie is trying to swing that back towards the middle. Power ammo in PvP is getting adjusted. Ammo per brick is getting reduced in certain 6v6 modes and will be communal like it was in Destiny 1. But unlike Destiny 1, when a player cracks open the power ammo, other players will still have a chance to grab some before they're locked out from it. It is not specified how many times power ammo will spawn per match, but for reference, it spawned one time in a Destiny 1 PvP match, maybe 2 times if a game went long. Let's move to PvP as a whole. There are a lot of issues right now. No new permanent game modes, missing Destiny 1 game modes. Where is Rift? No public-facing PvP team, and Trials has been gone for a while. Trials just didn't have the same impact as it did in Destiny 1. The theme was weaker, the card didn't matter as much, and the stakes were lower. Trials of the Nine is on hiatus indefinitely. I will note that in the post, the word 9 is emphasized. Shadowkeep and New Light will bring changes to PvP. Destiny 2's swap to 4v4 from Destiny 1's rule of threes broke some stuff, and they're trying to fix that break. Quick Play and Competitive have been removed from the director. Classic Mix is replacing Quick Play, giving a mix of control, clash, and supremacy. Competitive is being replaced with 3v3 Survival, which now awards Glory rank. Survival Solo Queue, also rewarding Glory, is being added. 6v6 Control is its own playlist. A weekly 6v6 and 4v4 rotator are being added, where modes like Clash, Supremacy, Mayhem, Lockdown, and Countdown will be. Some underperforming maps are being removed from matchmaking, but we don't know which ones. 4 variants of 3v3 elimination have been worked on, and elimination is returning to Crucible Labs. It is unfinished though, with no voiceovers or medals related to it just yet. They would like feedback on the variants, to which they assume elimination will make its way back into the game at some point down the road. Widow's Court and Twilight Gap are returning, although the wording does make it seem they're only for elimination. We need clarification on that. How about matchmaking? With all the new players coming in with Shadowkeep, hopefully anyway, Bungie doesn't want them getting immediately steamrolled by veteran players using Recluse. Currently, Quick Play is the only mode without some version of skill-based matchmaking in the game. 6v6 Classic Mix will preserve that. Other matchmaking changes will be happening to give players a wider variety of match types. Glory rank gains and losses are also being adjusted. Skill is now a factor in how much you gain and lose, and losses will be less punishing to your streaks. Finally, we get to some narrative stuff. Destiny's narrative hasn't really gone forward a ton. We've been experiencing things in the world of Destiny, but it hasn't really been feeling like we've gone anywhere with an overall story, maybe besides the Oryx storyline. In Season 8, stuff's going to happen on the moon. During the season, parts of the game will change before the story is resolved, but the resolution will set up the events of Season 9, and so on. This year's annual pass permanently added a lot of activities to the game, which caused the game to bloat a lot. This is why the list of powerful reward sources seems like homework. Destiny can't keep infinitely adding new activities to the game, even on a technical level. I think Shadowkeep requires like 165 gigs of space or something to install, something like that. So some activities and content will truly be seasonal. They'll show up for a season, and then some of the things from that season will go away, and that includes some rewards. But weapons and items from seasons past will be added to other reward sites in the future. Thoughts on Part 3. A lot to digest here. The damage number crunch here doesn't surprise me at all. Again, I don't think this is a nerf. It's just a squish to make sure numbers don't spiral out of control. You'll still be dealing the same damage percentage-wise and all that, as far as I know. Just kind of goes back to Part 2 where I asked, why not also squish power levels? I don't know, but this is totally fine. Increasing the immunity wall is also fine. Doesn't really affect the game too much, but maybe this is a hint that Bungie might be putting in some more difficulty options for activities. Who knows? But this isn't really going to affect players too much for regular day-to-day play. Buff and debuff stacking definitely needed to be addressed, and Bungie is doing it, and I'm happy and a little bit sad about it. Why sad? Well, there was a little bit of a skill factor in coordinating stacking all your buffs as much as possible for as long as possible. Maybe not a huge skill factor, but still one nonetheless. Now, things are going to be more simplified, which isn't terrible, but I am happy about these buffs and debuffs getting toned down. We don't know by how much yet, but stuff like Melting Point and Tractor Cannon are both 50%, at least for void damage. Tractor can be applied for a really long time as well. My guess is that if they really wanted to slap these debuffs down, Melting Point would come down to like 20%, and Tractor Cannon void damage boost would be like maybe 15, with non-void going to like 10 if they wanted to keep that theme. Otherwise, I don't really know how much they want to nerf these debuffs, so it's really anyone's guess. Weapon-specific buffs stacking, I think, is fine, like Kill Clip and Rampage, since it's going to be really hard to maintain those buffs for long periods of time, at least during boss damage phases. Supers being made vulnerable in PvP is very good. Part of the issue of chaining supers in PvP now is that you get to live a really long time, and they're just hard to shut down. Orb energy and kills and assist energy getting nerfed at the moment seems fine, but it's a worry if they swing too hard back towards Destiny 2 launch status. No way to really comment on this further without seeing it in action, but conceptually, I like it. It maybe doesn't need to be hit as hard in PvE content though, although it definitely does need to be looked at. Power ammo getting seemingly nerfed is also great. The nerf to me sounds like an adjusted Destiny 1 heavy ammo situation. In Destiny 1, If you weren't there when someone popped the power ammo, that was it. You had no chance of getting any. This version sounds like that, but you'll just have a few seconds after someone pops the power ammo to go grab some as well. My only question is, how many times is it going to spawn? I would prefer it to be on the lower side of things, once, maybe twice, and then maybe we can increase it if it's that much of a problem. The ammo reduction is great as well. Power ammo should be a manic moment in a match, and then we reset. Having one person on the enemy team just camp power over and over with a heavy machine gun the whole game is just not fun. Biggest thing from the PvP section is probably this sentence. Quote, Trials of the Nine didn't work the way we'd hoped, and Trials of the Nine is on hiatus indefinitely, end quote. 9 is emphasized, potentially hinting at some form of a Trials experience returning to the game, but that's all we can go on right now. Bungie is right. PvP has been neglected over the past year, only granting easier and easier to obtain pinnacle weapons. Things need to start happening. But what seems to be happening in Shadowkeep on the quick play side of things is just a giant reshuffling of game modes and options. I hope they're keeping some new maps and modes under wraps, because otherwise this just kind of feels a little bit the same. Competitive is where things are at least getting shaken up a little bit, but survival is familiar to the player base already and seems to be one of the lesser liked modes in the game right now. Not to mention the switch to 3v3 survival might make things feel slower on maps that were made with 4v4 or the one or two with 6v6 in mind. But I totally respect that they're at least trying something here and trying to make glory point gains and losses less binary as well. Elimination looks to be the star of the show here, with different variants coming to Crucible Labs with and without res tokens and whatever other rules they have. But again, until we see this in action, it's tough to comment further, but I'm excited to see what's in store. Finally, narrative. As I questioned Luke during the Shadowkeep reveal stream, Destiny has been going in many directions, but not one of them feels like forward. I know I would like to ultimately see Destiny find that central villain or storyline or theme or something that makes us feel like we're not just floundering or going around helping random citizens with their problems. I like that seasons will seemingly set up events for the next one, perhaps creating a chain reaction of events, and I hope that Destiny actually decides to go somewhere instead of having central characters just disappear or feel like they serve no purpose anymore. Okay, that was a lot. Overall, these were really great reads and insights into the game, and I hope we see this kind of stuff in the future. Maybe once a season to reflect on how Bungie thinks the season went or stuff like that. Anything that gives more insight into the game is always going to be welcome. Overall, the main gripes that I have pointed out seem to match up pretty well with what Luke has outlined in these posts. And that's cool. It's pretty validating as a content creator who now mainly focuses on commentary to point out things that I think, and at least some of the community think, are problems with the game, and have a lot of those points matched by creatives. It's nice knowing that I'm not just making things up or that I'm completely off base. It's a nice confidence boost for the future, for sure. But I think that's going to finally do it for me. I'm going to shut up now. If you enjoyed this video, a positive rating is very appreciated. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.